Oh, we've got a couple of people in. Excellent. Welcome. So today, just going to do very, very basic introduction to electronics. Quick disclaimer: I'm not an electrician. I'm not an electronics expert of any kind. I've probably just been doing it a few weeks. Well, no, that's not entirely true. I done when I served my apprenticeship, I had to do, I think, a 2-year course on electronics, just a basic course. That was a long time ago, and I've sort of forgotten all that. And then I started doing it on this, and bits of it have started coming back to me. So I'm not an expert. I'm not even good at it, I would say, but I sort of know little bits and bobs. And I'm just gonna, what we're gonna do, we're gonna try and learn this together. So I've probably got a little bit of a head start, so I can't really class myself as a complete noob to electronics, but I'm certainly not, an expert. So I don't want to give that impression. So with that said, so today we're just going to look at what I feel are some of the things that you would need if you're starting out and you want to go down this road. Now, bear in mind, these are just things that I think a complete beginner would be best getting. There's the hobby of electronics is a huge. It covers a huge gamut of all sorts of. You just couldn't possibly teach it in in this format. So this is just going to be electronics relating to model kits. So you're not going to learn anything here that will help you rewire your house or anything like that. It's not that sort of electronics. You're not going to be able to sit down and fault find and repair your TV after you've done, after we've done a few of these. It's just a hobby. So please bear that in mind before we start. So there's a lot of things that you can get, components that you can buy, and ways that you can do things. So for now, I'm just going to concentrate on the simplest way of doing things. So one of the first things I think you're going to need is a container. So we'll put the light down here. I think you're going to require maybe 2 or 3 of these, or some sort of drawers that you're just going to keep components in. You don't want to be putting dirty bits of filler and stuff in there. You want to keep these separate and clean. So try and keep the lid closed when you're not using it. So this is my first box. I've got 2, but this is the one we're going to look at. And one of the many things that let me see. Yeah, one of the many things that that modeling uses electronics for is lighting. It's the main sort of thing, I think. And then you've got motors for turning props and spinners and things like that. So lighting, it comes in two separate ways. You can either buy your LEDs completely separate like this, and they come, you know, you can buy it at various quantities and strengths and brightness, which we will look at in a separate issue. But these are 100 5mm LEDs. The 5mm refers to the size of the LED at the top, and it also gives no, there's just some Chinese writing on there. Now that came with a set of these as well. So normally what they'll do when you buy a set of this and it comes with these are the right resistors, because these are resistors to attach to these. Now I know that sounds complicated already, because what you've got to do is you've got to take each one of these and connect it to this. Don't worry about that for now, because we'll cover that completely separately much further down the road. So I think that's a much more complicated way of doing it. Now, the second way, what you're trying to achieve with them is, just bear with me while I pull one of these out. So when you get your LEDs and your resistors, and you've obviously got your cable and that, what you're trying to achieve is something like that. So your LED is there, and basically they've put the resistor in just there. You can see the bulge of it under the heat shrink cable, just at the top there, if it will. It will allow that. Sorry, it's a bit. And so you want to achieve that. Now, as a beginner, that's going to be, unless you're very quick to adapt to soldering, that could take you quite some time to pick up, and you may end up destroying some LEDs in the process, or some resistors even. So I would suggest, now by the way, these are pennies. We'll talk about where you get these in a minute. So that's the option that I wouldn't go with. Now the other option is you can buy these done like this. They're already done, so you haven't got to faff about soldering, putting the resistor on or anything like that. They are a bit more expensive than them, obviously, because somebody's put a lot of work into them to put them like that. But they're still not amazingly expensive. So, for example, this setup here, if I just, now that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is a pack of 5 red and blue alternate flashing LEDs. So they flash red and blue, slowly or fast, depending on how you set it up. And those were, I think, around £3 for 5. You can get various sizes and quantities. Here we've got, so these are 3mm LEDs, and they are white flashing LEDs. And there's 10 of those. And again, I think those were, you know, something like $2.99 for 10. And you know, unless you're building at a stinking rate and you're wiring every model, you're not going to get through large quantities of these unless you're building a big boat or something like that. And again, we've got white clear. Now, these were bought off eBay, and I ended up paying, I think it was £3 for 2. and then I had to pay some postage on top. I wasn't very happy, so I tend to stay away from eBay. Now, where's the best place to buy all these? Well, honestly, people are going to laugh, but Wish.com, you go on there, or June is another one. They do come from China, and they will take 3 or 4 weeks to arrive. So buy them in plenty of advance time, but you will save an awful lot of money. I've bought all these from there, with the exception of that. I don't think you can even buy just 2 from China. They come in tens, 5, 10, 20. You can even, as many as you want. Everything I've bought for my electronics has come from China. I've never been disappointed. I've never been sent anything that was rubbish. I've never been ripped off yet, touch wood. So I've got no qualms at all about buying stuff from there. So those are your lighting. Now you can buy these in so many different purple, white light, warm light, 5mm, 3mm. You can even then buy them in tiny little squares. They're called micro LEDs or SMDs, and they're the tiny things that go in maybe a lamp post on a diorama. They're so small you can't see them, but they give off quite a bright light. And the thing is, you want to make sure you've got a variety as well. If you're really going for it and it's really something you're interested in doing, make sure every opportunity you get when you've got a bit of spare money, order some more of different types and just put them away. That's what I'm trying to do at the moment. And you see, I've got these were the first ones I bought right at the very beginning, before I found out about these. But I went with that. Obviously, the second thing you're going to need is you're going to need wire. I've got this is radio controlled wire, and I've got black and red, and you're probably going to need a couple of different thicknesses. So just get yourself some of those. Again, they're relatively cheap, as long as you don't buy them from Halfords or Maplin's or something like that. You can pick them up fairly cheap. One of the more expensive items you're going to need, and I say expensive, but it's all relative to what you can afford. These sort of things, the clips. I've actually only got a couple at the moment. So you're going to need the clips, and you're going to need the battery, probably battery boxes that sit on the end, so you can put your PP9 batteries in, or whatever it is you're going to use. So, it's always handy to have some of those and the battery boxes. And, of course, make sure you never run out of batteries. These ones are the favourite. They're used quite a lot. So highly recommend you start buying those and stocking up on them. They last a long time, so it's not something that you're going to go through really quickly. And there we go. So those are your first 3 items. Then if you are going to make your own LEDs, then you're going to need some of this stuff. Again, this came from China. I got a set of about 600, and I paid, I think I paid £3 for 600. And basically, they're sleeves. They're just like these sleeves, various sizes. Some of them are really big, and some of them go right down, and they're really small. But when you've attached your resistor to the LED, you would slide the sheath or this sleeve over the resistor and the join on the leg, and then using a lighter or a hot air gun, you would just apply some heat underneath, and you'll visibly see the plastic shrink, and it's like shrink wrap. Well, you've seen what it does on these when I showed you a few minutes ago. It really shrinks in, and it's much safer than using insulation tape. I think they even use it in electrics now around the home and stuff like that. So again, it's handy to have some electrical tape in your box, but for the main part, when you're dealing with components, that's the way to go. My guide for that, if you're putting that on a piece, again, we're going to go through this at another time. When you put your sleeve over, you basically want something double the size of what there is there, so it's quite slack. I can see people shaking their head there. Yeah, it's quite slack, and you just apply the heat, and it'll shrink down to the right size. Right. Other things you may need. I've got a selection of watch batteries in here, because some setups, PP9's there's not gonna be space for it or something like that, or you only require 3 volts instead of 9 or 12 or whatever, and you use these. So that's another option there. Right, moving on. We're just going to cover. You're going to need what is known as breadboard. And I'm just trying to find mine. To show you, and it appears right, it looks like I'm not going to be able to show you that at the moment because it's oh, there it is. Right. And this is known as breadboard. And when you buy it, if you buy it in a set, as a beginner set, you'll normally come like that. It'll have a set of jumper cables, and if you buy certain ones, they'll come with a power supply, which this one has. I just haven't took it out of the packet yet. And basically, you can. It's like a way of a mock-up, doing a mock-up of your build. Like when you're building a model, you do the dry fit phase. This is like the dry fit phase of electronics. So you'll plan out where you want all your bits to go on your plane, car, whatever it is you're building. And then you will put the components in the breadboard, you'll attach the power, and you make sure everything works. Once you know it works, you can then transfer it all over to your model. We're going to cover planning and building your electronics probably maybe fairly early on, because it's one of the things you have to do quite early on. So, and that's known as breadboard. And again, this can be a bit more expensive. So probably around, I think this one was around £6. I've just got to go. Somebody's knocked at the door. Apologies. Daniel. Okay. Right, sorry about that. So where were we? Can't remember where we got to. Yeah, breadboard. So anyway, yeah, that's about £7, I think. So you want to, Daniel, come in here. Yeah, it comes in various sizes. At the moment, for me, I think that's plenty big enough, but I haven't used it yet. So I couldn't say for certain. It may turn out that it's not big enough, but we'll wait and see. I went with one a bit bigger than I thought I'd need. So that's that. So for the moment, these are the main components. Now, when you go on Wish and you put in electronic components, you're probably going to need to be a bit more specific. So I've started adding various other items to add to this collection, and I've got many on the way that I'm waiting for, such as 9-volt jacks and the plug. So basically the jack is if you think of your computer where you plug the cable into the computer, the little round hole with the sometimes there's a little spigot in there, other times there's not, and you have the cable that plugs in. So the jack plug is the laptop side of it, and the power lead that plugs in, that's your plug side of it. I think that makes sense. So I've got some of them on the way, and I will tell you the reason for that shortly. But so another thing I've got here are switches. They're just simple on-off switches with two pins on the back for attaching to your wiring system. Again, this is something we'll cover. We're literally just looking at items that you may or may not need. So, you know, just think about what you're planning in the future, how you might like to have your electronics work in your kit. For example, many people, they just set their wiring up, attach a battery, and maybe hot glue the battery to the inside of the model, and then close it all up, and that's it, done. And then, you know, but then when the battery goes, you can't replace it. So the way around that is to put a switch in. So you'd have your battery, a switch, and then your lighting system. So again, the battery's inside, the switches are on the outside. You turn the switch on, and it allows the power to go through to your lighting system. Think of the switch as a gate. So you've got your electric flowing either, you know, through your wires, and then you've got this gate. All of a sudden, I think it's normally on the positive terminal. And it's just like a break in the line, and when you turn the switch on, the gate closes and the electricity carries on its way. So it's a constant loop. Again, we'll cover that in more detail. So that is another way of doing it, but I'm not keen on having the battery in the model at all, because I know they leak, and I just don't like the idea. So my plan is quite simple. I'm going to create a battery box on the outside. So it'll just be an ordinary battery box. It'll probably have a jack plug, like similar to what you get on a laptop. So it will have the power lead coming from the battery box, which argument's sake, we'll say this is the battery box here. The batteries are in here, and then you'll have you'll have a couple of wires coming out there, but instead of this, there will be a jack plug thing on the end. Then on each of my models, I'm going to install the receptacle end of the jack plug, and so I can go around to each of my models that I've lit up, just plug that in and turn the power on the box on, and it'll light everything up so that I can show it to people. When I've finished, turn the power off, pull the lead out, done. And that way I've only got one battery on the go. I don't have to have multiples. I don't have to worry about them leaking. And that's what I plan to do with mine. So, and then we've got switches there. We've got another set of switches. Now I think they're the same. I don't know why they sent them in two separate bags. It puzzled me, but I did order 20. Yeah, they're just Nintendo Switch bits. So there we go. That's the components for now. I can cover them more as and when they come along. So, other things you're going to need. And now I think you're definitely going to need a decent set of precision screwdrivers. Now you can buy cheap ones, but in my experience, the cheap ones will always round off very quickly, and it's worth paying the extra and getting a decent set. I paid about 10 quid for these. Obviously, that was, you know, they're not the cheapy ones, but they're not the ultra high end either. But these have been good. As long as you look after them, they'll look after you. So you need a pair of them. Now we're going to go to some items that you don't necessarily need straight away, but I think you're going to need at some point. And one of these is obviously a multimeter. This will help you fault find, help you measure electricity, measure continuity, check for breaks in lines and components and so on. We'll look at all that in the future. We're not going to go massively in depth with this because this does so many different things. I can't possibly tell you all of them because there's just so many things that it does. But they're not that expensive. You can pick one up off eBay. You can probably get a fairly good one for about 20 quid. Try and get one with crocodile clips on the end. I haven't got crocodile clips at the moment. I've got to buy some. It's just a lot easier if you can clip that onto one area and you've just got to touch that on the other without, you know, needing your hands, and then you've got to hold the piece as well, and it gets a bit, can be a bit awkward. So try and get the ones with the crocodile clips if you can. All right. Be on the lookout when you're on Wish and June for one of these. Brilliant bit of kit. It's not essential by any means. It just tells you if something is working. And with resistors, they've got coloured bands on them. Each one has coloured bands. And you can go and look on the internet and it will tell you what each of those bands represent. And basically you just add them up and it gives you the measurement of that resistor. It tells you what that resistor is. it's a universal identification system for resistors, used the world over. And you know, if you get stuck and you haven't got any of these, you can use that to, it will at least tell you what resistor you've got there. But this, you can just plug it in, plug your resistor in, and it'll flash up on the screen and tell you which one it is, and you're good to go. It's as easy as that. It does many, many more things, and I don't know what they are yet. So I'm learning this as well. I've only just, somebody very kindly sent me this. I'm very grateful to them, and so you know, it's new to me. I'm just learning this myself. So you know, we'll learn together, and should be interesting. So again, this is not very expensive. I think, I don't know because I didn't buy it, but I've seen them, I think, under £5 on Wish. But again, it depends where you get them from. Should you wish to go down the road of soldering LEDs, you are going to need a soldering iron. Now, I recommend that you get one. Now, this is something I wasn't actually aware of at the time, and I have to thank Terry Wright, aka Smooth, for letting me know about this, because I wasn't aware. I'd got an ordinary soldering iron, but when you go and get one, make sure you get one that's got variable temperature on it, because certain components, once they reach 200 degrees or something like that, they burn out. And obviously electrical components of metal legs, and they, you know, the heat travels up the metal and it heats everything up inside and it'll just frazzle it. So with these, you can turn these down. This one goes down to 200. The first time I soldered anything, I found 200 a bit too low for me. It struggled to melt the solder I was using. So I need to change my solder, because obviously there's no point having a soldering iron that will go down to 200 if you require 400 to melt your solder. So, you know, I've got to work on that. And I've done a bit of soldering with this, and again, this wasn't that bad. It was, I got this from Lidl, and I paid, I think, £14 for this, and it comes with some solder, which obviously is no good because it don't melt at 200 degrees, and a few little bits and bobs. So that's something you're going to need if you're going to be making your own rigs. Another thing that might be worth getting, now I haven't got this yet, but I am looking at getting one. Again, on Wish, they do these electronic work mats. They're about, I suppose they're about A3 in size. They've got little sections for putting wires and cutting pieces and stuff like that, and putting your screwdrivers and bits and bobs. And it's got like, I think it's like an anti-static type mat that you can work on. And I'm looking at trying to get one of those. Again, not very expensive, but something that I'm looking at getting. So, does that about cover what I feel you'd need as a complete beginner? I'm just going to check the other box. Now, this box is more to do with weathering. than electronic bits and bobs, but we'll just quickly check. Just put some black cable in there, brushes, glue sticks. Yeah, no, there's some sanding paper. That's about it really, so no, nothing required out of there. We can pop that and that's away. Now, so there we go. I don't think there's anything more that you're going to require at this point. So next time we're going to look at starting to plan your build, I think. I may use the Snowberry. It's quite a big build though. I may use the Snowberry as a guide in order to continue this. One more thing that would be worth buying, you hear a lot about it now, is fibre optic cable. This can be more expensive if you're not careful. Just look around. I think I bought 10 meters. Maybe that's more than 10 meters there, I'm not sure. And I paid around, I can't remember now, 3-4 quid, something like that. And it comes like that. And I'll show you how that works as well in a future episode. We're going to put some fibre optics, I think, in the Snowberry at some point. So I don't think there's going to be. I'm trying to structure it, but I think the best way forward is just going to be to do the Snowberry, and do that as we go along. Because otherwise it's just going to start getting a bit hectic. Yeah, so the first thing we're going to do next time, we will look at planning our build. What should you do, and when to do it. So thanks for watching. I hope that's been of some help for you. Hopefully you'll be able to start getting your bits and pieces together, and we'll go from there. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.